The telescreen received and transmitted simultaneously any sound that Winston made above the level of very low whisper would be picked up by it. Moreover, so long as he remained within the field of vision which the metal plaque commanded, he could be seen as well as heard. There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment, how often, or on what system the thought police plugged in at any individual wire was guesswork. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody at all the time. But at any rate, they could plug in your wire whenever they would want to. Oh, hello. Do you think that Big Brother is watching? Or that the Illuminati is planning to take over the world? Have you had an encounter with a space alien today? Well, if the answer to those questions is yes, then grab your hat. This is tinfoil hat time. Welcome back to tinfoil hat time. So, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. We have a fun discussion. Greetings, everybody who's in early. Robert, dude, Tom, just listening. Video on Richard Stallman. What's happening? 1984. Yeah. So if you missed the preview or the insight, anything else, we are going to be looking at the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation's report on spying on students. And this thing here is about a 50-page report came out. There's like 43 pages of text, and I read it all. We're going to be talking about this. So really, it's this is a question. Actually, in fact, it is one of the very first things on my list of tinfoil hat times to talk about, because I've talked in great detail about this topic with a friend of mine who is in high school. In fact, my board is right over here with all my topics, and the very first item right there says, "What if parents do not agree to Google terms and conditions for school?" And that's a fascinating question. Now I got to get my camera right again. That's a very fascinating question. And I wasn't quite sure how to go about addressing that. And so what I wanted to do is, what I want to do right now is pause my my test stream, because it's actually, I can hear it through my headphones. I got my headphones right here in case I needed to monitor anything. And I could hear it like, oh, what's going on? All right, so anyway, what we're going to do is, I was curious about this, and I wasn't sure how exactly would I go about addressing such a question, and and all this. And it turns out that last week I found out that the Electronic Frontier Foundation has been studying this since 2015. So a couple of years now, about a year and a half or so study. And then the article came out, and I knew from the moment I saw it, this is going to be an entire tinfoil hat time dedicated to this. Now, I have another big educational thing to talk about, and I doubt we are going to be, I really doubt that it's going to be covered here. And so we will probably... yes, my test stream is spying on me. We are probably going to do another educational tinfoil hat time soon, because there's some more things we can talk about. Today, we are going to talk specifically about technology in the classroom, privacy, and the shortcomings thereof. So, hello everybody else who has just joined us. Yes, I did start the stream by reading some from 1984 while the kitty cam was there, and I hope that the kitty stayed for the whole thing. I don't know. I've been, the kitties are just, you can see one of them right there in the background. Kitty, kitty. Hi. But they were not being cooperative today. They just did not want to sit still in one spot, so I couldn't really put the kitty cam on them. Hello, David. I am doing fine. Thank you. Hello, Lance. Hello, Dan. And, of course, hello, Dr. Rob. So, What we are going to do is we are going to start out by looking at this this article here. Now, I was doing a little bit of testing on a live stream last week. I'm still going to try and run some animated backgrounds. Let me know if you hear choppiness. Type choppiness in the comments, and I will turn the animated background off. I think the way I adjusted my settings on OBS will actually resolve the issue there. I got to slide over a little bit. You can't see Roger. Chill out. This is Roger right there. You can't see Roger right there. I got to slide over. All right. So also just a couple of little housekeeping things. Of course, if you want to check out the website at switchtolinux.com, I do plan on eventually getting more videos up there, or like more tutorials, articles, and things up there. It's just a matter of time. And of course, I did officially launch the Patreon account, so you can find me at patreon.com/TomM. So you can find those. But with that being said, we are going to jump over here and have a look at the website here for the Electronic Frontier Foundation. So this is a great website that focuses a lot on defending our rights in the digital world. So they're kind of on the cutting edge of things. And so what you want to do is just have a look at them. It's one of the few groups I actually signed up for their newsletter today, just in response to this article. I generally don't like newsletters of any form or another. And so if you ever find my email address and attach me to a newsletter, it's a pretty good firm bet I will never do any business with you. But, I will gladly sign up on something like this. So I did that. And you can click over here and download the entire PDF of this. And like I said, this is a 50-page document. Now, if you are a school teacher, an administrator, you are a parent, you are in school yourself, you have got to go get this report and spend the time reading it. It might take you a couple days. I actually cleared out my whole work day today to read this thing, but I highlighted it and everything. I picked out some neat stuff. I color coded it. What's comments from students? What's comments from teachers? What's comments from administrators? What are their general comments? And so we're really going to jump into all this kind of stuff here and see what's going on. But particularly, I am not going to address their solutions for their solutions for administrators or solutions for teachers. I'm not going to focus on those things. If you are in that position, though, grab a copy of this, read it, and understand those. I'm going to focus specifically on we as individuals, be we students, or be we parents of students in the school system. And this is mostly dealing with K through 12. A lot of the same stuff applies on the college level. And I will tell you that everything in here is like gospel truth. And I can tell you that because after I was a professor, I spent, 4 or 5 years or so working for an academic software sales company, and we sold online homework platforms, and I can tell you about some of those. This is that. All right. More comments are coming in here. David, hello. Richard, hello. I like mints, Linux Mint. Yeah, I'm recording this video on Linux Mint Cinnamon 18.1, and I love it. Greetings, Candy. I'm a kid using Linux. Am I being watched? The thing is that it's not just a matter of what system do you have. A lot of it is a matter of what are you doing with it. You're already better off using Linux than you are using a Mac or a Windows computer as far as the operating system itself collecting data. But the real answer to that question depends on what are you doing on your computer. So I am doing this as a live stream through YouTube right now. So Google is certainly collecting information. And I weighed this when I was talking about, do I want to go into YouTube or not, being a privacy-minded person? And I think that I know enough about it it's, for me, it's worth the risks because I take the chances to do things right. So what I would advise you, if you're concerned about privacy, obviously, flip through the student. If you don't want to read the whole report, just flip back to like the last couple pages here and we'll look at this. Pages 36 to 38 deal with parents and students' advice. We'll talk more about that later. But don't stay logged into any social media accounts. In fact, weigh heavily if you even need any social media accounts. And if you're 11, legally you can't even have social media accounts outside of the Amazon and the Google ways because they're looking for fun ways to get around COPPA. And we'll talk about COPPA. But under the age of 13, a company is technically not allowed to have any data collected on you unless your parent has given written authorization. So yeah, we are users being used. Absolutely. In fact, I watched that Richard Stallman with Robert. Is it the one with Brian Lunduke? Is that the one you watched? I got a chance to watch that one the other day, and that's good. I mean, that's good stuff. And if I think he and I would agree on a whole lot of things. He would totally disagree the fact that A, I'm using Linux Mint, and B, I'm on YouTube. Completely, he would disagree with that. But I think that for me, I'm willing to take a few points of sacrifice to say, okay, let's use this as a platform to get the word out. Facebook, absolute tracker. Yeah, I would block Facebook from your host file and not use it unless you specifically need to. As I said in my Cubes video yesterday, I do have a Facebook account associated with my authorship things, and so I have one, but I rarely use it. In fact, the first time I posted anything on Facebook for the last 3 months was today. I posted about this video on Facebook. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Live from a CD, DVD, or a write-restricted USB is the way to go. Yes. Particularly, like, if you're super duper 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 super duper concerned, yeah, there's always Tails. I'm not that concerned. I'd rather just do protection, privacy through. We'll talk about the difference here between privacy through policy and privacy through practice. We're going to get into that. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into this. We'll revisit the comments in a little bit here and see what happens. So audio sounding good? Is everyone still sounding good? I think it is. No one's complaining yet, but if it does, if audio gets choppy or anything, let me know, and I'm going to take that animated background out. I like the video quality with the animated background, so I want to keep it as long as I can. Well, anyway, actually, we're done with that. Let me just transition back to, let's just go back to this one. Keep it in there. Kitty. Oh, I have a kitty wants to come say hi. All right, kitty. One more distraction. Come on. Oh, kitty.
Hi, peoples. Careful of technology in the classroom. It's really me that's stalking you.
All right. Well, he's not really happy about that. All right. He's like, don't associate me with that stuff. Okay. So looking at this report, they did an executive summary, looking at the various things that they were doing. And they identified a lot of major concerns, and their areas of concern dealt with, A, is a lack of transparency. And this was critical because the lack of transparency, basically, this is the biggest issue. Because schools, many cases, are wholesale violating COPA. And if a concerned parent simply knew what COPA said, went to Google and said, I have not granted parental authority for you to collect data on my son or daughter. So you have two choices, Google. You will be a plaintiff with me against the school or a defendant against me in the court. Now, Google's covered themselves. They're not easily going to be liable for anything. And the reason why, let me get into the reason why in a little bit. But lack of transparency. And then they talked about legislative or investigative burdens. They talked about data concerns and things like that. So let's dive into these guys. Rather than reading all of the summary and then doing it all again, we're just going to go ahead and look at their survey results. Again, this is, if you're joining late, comes directly from the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, and it's their report called Spying on Students, School-Issued Devices and Student Privacy. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to look at is the lack of transparency. Okay, so the lack of transparency. All right, so what this means is that what this study did, now they did a survey. Let me talk about their survey real quick. They issued out a survey, a little over 1,000 people responded. 1,034 people responded to the survey. And this corresponded a cross-section of 468 students, 393 parents, 69 teachers, 31 school administrators, and 73 other community members. So that is who would responded to the surveys. And then what they did is they looked at the implementations being done. And what they found is that overwhelmingly Google was pretty much everywhere. It's kind of like, the omnipresent evil technology platform. Half of respondents reported Chromebooks were used in their school district, 32%, iPads, and poor little Microsoft Surface tablets, 3%. Of course, 63% of respondents were using the Google Suites in their various districts. And that's what they use in my district, of course. Issue everybody their email address without telling anybody about it. Too young of an age for the student to know anything about it. And you know what this is? This is called a social experiment, where Google is now tracking thousands and hundreds of thousands of students as they're going through there, seeing how people change over time and gaining and building an entire profile. And we're going to talk about this later, but the only thing Google has to do is not serve ads targeted to that person exclusively on the Google apps for education. But if you use that same Google login to log into YouTube, all bets are off. They can do whatever they want with that data. In fact, there's not even anything to say that they can or can't use data that is specifically on the applications. They just can't target you with it at that point in time. So, lack of transparency. What this basically said is that, well, they said, yeah, the disclosure notice is broken. Yeah, it broke. All right. In other words, transparency means that if I have a minor child, which if I have kids in the school district, that means I have a minor child. Okay, if I have a minor child, then that child, I need to give parental permission for a lot of different things. And with those lot of different things, we happen to have things such as what applications is the student using? Do they have access to technology? Who's monitoring that? If you're a reasonable parent, you want to make sure that you're monitoring not just outside school and home, but you want to have a handle in school, what applications are the students using? Particularly if you as a parent have said, I do not want you on XYZ application, if the school system isn't monitoring that, then now you have a situation where you have the school system telling a kid one thing, the parent telling a kid something else, and that's always a problem because the parent should always have that ultimate authority in their student's life. All right, so basically what they said here is that parents who responded to the survey were overwhelmingly not notified when schools started using new software and devices, created email accounts for students, or posted pictures of students on school or other social media websites. And that's particularly concerning because if you did catch that Richard Stallman talk that Robert was talking about earlier, one of the things he said is, please don't put my stuff on YouTube, but definitely do not put stuff on Facebook. Because once you upload a single photo to Facebook, every single time a human being's face hits Facebook, they do biometric tracking to store that and link that to profiles. If they can attach a name to that, they do. Whatever they're doing, they are using this super biometric data. And the school system has no right to post that information onto a social media platform that they do not own without express written consent from the parent. But pretty much nobody ever does that. All right. So a parent quote, one parent said, this is from Maryland, we were given no information about our first grader receiving a tablet this year. And when we ask questions, there is no information given at any level. Student came back and said their Google account was, quote, provided suddenly without notice. provided suddenly without notice. And by the way, for those Google accounts, now, if you've ever gone through a Google sign-in process, you know that they ask a whole lot of stuff. They want to know what's your first name, what's your middle initial, what's your last name, what's your phone number, what's your birthday, what's blah, 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 like ad infinitum. And the sad thing is that the school system, without parental consent, is giving all of that information to Google so they know who you are. And this whole section is lack of transparency, lack of the parent coming, like it would even be almost tolerable if the school system came in and said, hey, we're going to go ahead and create Google accounts. So you at least have a chance to go, stop. No. They don't have that ability. They're just wholesale creating them because Google has created a system that works well. And their system works well so that what you can do is what they can do then is they can look at basically the easier they make their system, the more people they'll get into it. And I've set up people with Google Apps for work, and there's a few things that are a little weird about it, but for the most part, it's a decent system. And we need to keep that type of stuff in mind as we go on. So where's my there's that one there. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that up there so you can see the comment stream as we're going there. We see how far behind I am and everything. But this whole thing is about, there's a major problem in the fact that school systems are not informing, are not giving consent forms, or are not even authorized in many instances to sign the kids up for Google. All right, so let me catch up on the comments because the comments are going crazy. Nope. All right. Cinnamon for me. Cinnamon is awesome. Yes. Let's see. Let me back all the way up. Hi, Kitty. TJ says meow. Or CJ says meow. Hey, now he's sitting down calmly and patiently. He just likes to hear the sound of my voice, apparently. I don't know. Which desktop do I prefer on Linux? Do you have a favorite? Okay, my absolute favorite is Cinnamon. Beyond that, I like Unity despite its dying. I have KDE on my other computer. I have a few issues with KDE. I'm going to see if I can't resolve a few of those, and regardless, I will do that. Like my media computer died, and so I'm going to eventually invest in a new Raspberry Pi, rebuild the media center on a Raspberry Pi. Mostly consumes less power, but that computer happens to have an SSD in it. So if I can't get the computer working again, the SSD is going into my KDE computer, and then I'll see for sure. But my absolute favorite is Linux Mint. Cinnamon for me. Yep. Mate and XFCE. Wish Cinnamon had the whisker menu. You can do a lot of interesting things with the Cinnamon menu, though. There is an application like a desklet. It's like a Cinnamon menu customizer. Be perfect UI. Okay. iBads. Kindle is a swindle. iBads and swindles. Who's got iBads and swindles? I died. Oops. All right. What are your thoughts on Snowden? I think that what Snowden did is he alerted us to actual real illegal activity. I'm not behind WikiLeaks right now with this current round of leaks that they're doing because they're not demonstrating that any illegal activity has occurred, just some capabilities. And I agree with somebody's comment that said, well, if people were, if WikiLeaks is so good, why aren't they leaking things on Russia or on China or anybody else? With the Snowden, that was a fine thing, but with WikiLeaks itself, with all of this other stuff, I agree that there should be a degree of national security. I don't agree that they should wholesale throw out the Constitution with it. So in that respect, I think Snowden brought to light a lot of good things, but. And other than that, I'm not going to say, is there a better way he could have done things or whatever else? I don't know. It's such a hard topic to get into everything. Let's see. I'm learning programming. I want to give back and contribute to the Linux community. Yes, absolutely. Consent of the governed. Yeah, let's talk about that before we jump off this topic. Okay, at the end of the day, it's 9. When I was in grammar school, Go Ask Alice was taken off the school's reading list. Google will be raising our kids. They are already raising your kids. Actually, no, it is not illegal to have a Bible in school. In fact, if a student is allowed to read the Bible, a student is allowed to pray in school, a student is allowed to do all that stuff. The only thing that is restricted is a teacher may not coerce a prayer group or a Bible study on the school's time. So a Bible is certainly legal to have in the school system. Now, some school administrators don't know that, but in reality, a Bible is allowed in the school system. A teacher is allowed to have a Bible as long as they privately read it in their downtime, like in their breaks during school. And it would be questionable to read it in front of students, but a student definitely is allowed to bring a Bible in and read it as much as they want, whenever they want, period. And someone who tells you otherwise is simply not quite knowledgeable on the law. It's like asking somebody at my school, what's Linux? Their response is, what's Linux? Yeah, well, I know a guy that's like, yeah, Linux, just command line stuff. No. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I want to walk over I have too many screens on OBS. There we are. We're going to look at something here. All right, we are going to look at Google Education's privacy policy because, we all at least pretend to read these, don't we? So coming down at the very bottom, you can see the privacy and security, which doesn't take us to a privacy policy, but more marketing. But the question I liked was, let's see, there's an FAQ section down here somewhere. It has to do with FERPA. So there's two major acts in United States. You have FERPA, which deals with educational materials in school systems, and you have COPA, which deals with any online company. So in FERPA, which is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, a system like a company or a school system may not allow any external party to see any other information. And that's kind of important because now we're wholesale handing all of this, every aspect of things, we're wholesale handing out to third parties. Why is this not a violation of FERPA? Because it's just doing, stuff for education and making our systems better. Yeah, that's all we're doing. We're just collecting information to make our systems better. If you believe that, I have some oceanfront property in Montana to sell you. All right, now the other law is COPA, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which basically says that under the age of 13, a company may not collect any information on a child without formal written consent. Now, if you've been watching my live stream news, you'll see that there are two companies now that have introduced applications and programs to get around COPA legally. Those two companies are, of course, Google. And of course, I just reported last time was Amazon. So these are both introducing family plans that with the full consent of the parent, the plan is going to allow you to sign your child up so they can collect all the data for the purpose of you checking their data. It's just a wonderful way for them to get around COPA and still view the data. And then at 13, they can graduate to their regular plan, and then you have no control at all. That's what they're trying to do. But of course, does this agree with FERPA and COPA? And now, notice their answer. Can G Suite for Education be used in compliance with Children's Online Protection Act? Yes, we contractually require that schools using G Suite get parental consent required by COPA. So let's read about this in the agreements, shall we? Let's go and just bear with me. I realize this is like, yeah, legalese. But we're going to look at a couple things. Look at the end user accounts. Okay, an end user. So the customer, so if you'll notice up here, Google, of course, is Google. Customer is the school. When you see customer, variable, you PHP programmers or other programmers, variable. Customer equals school. Variable. End user equals student. Okay. End user accounts. 1.5. Customer may request end user accounts by requesting them online after services commencement date, contacting Google supports. Customers can suspend or delete end user accounts at any point. Only the customer can, of course. Customer obligations. Okay, 2.4. End user consent. Customers, administrators may have the ability to access, monitor, use, or disclose data available to end users within end user accounts. Customer will obtain and maintain all required consents from end users to allow customers access, monitoring, use, disclosure, and data, and Google providing customer with the ability to do so and to Google provide these. Look at 2.5, parental consent. Under section 10.1 below, customer is responsible for compliance with COPPA, including obtaining parental consent for collection of personal information in the services or non-G Suite products allowing end users to access. Customers will also obtain parental consent before allowing any end users under the age of 18 use G Suites. So let's look at 10.1. 10.1. Each party represents that he has full power and authority to enter the agreement. Each party warrants that it will comply with the laws and regulations applicable to its provisions, use, or services, or applications, including applicable security breach notification law. Google warrants that it will provide services in accordance with applicable SLA. Customer acknowledges and agrees. Remember, school acknowledges and agrees it is solely responsible for compliance with the COPPA law, including but not limited to obtaining parental consent concerning collection of students' personal information used in connection with provisioning and the use of services in the customer and end user. Nobody is informed about these things. Right here. Is Google getting written consent to create those end user accounts? If they're not, the person involved. Let me get this straight. Okay, listen. The school, the very person involved in teaching your child how to be a member of society is wholesale violating COPPA. Wow. Wow. Oh, I think we beat the first one to death with a dead horse. Let's look at the investigative burden. Okay, so the investigative burden. What the investigative burden means is that since there's lack of transparency in the school in communicating to you the amount of the user data being mined and these policies, etc., all of this kind of stuff, since the user is not being informed of this stuff most of the time, now it's up to the parents and the students to figure all this stuff out. All right, so the parents and the students figuring all this stuff out, now they have to spend some lengthy time. So here's a fascinating comment from a parent, and some of these were actually in Pennsylvania, which is cool. I can't see where the parent is from. It says, I have never received any written policy about how many apps the school uses, how they collect student data. The district maintains a website for parents to obtain information regarding technology in the classrooms, but I have not found anything there about student privacy. When we asked for the apps that the school was using, we were hoping to see in writing what they're using. Instead, we got a short verbal list, but when we looked at our son's iPad, we see a lot more programs than what they told us about. What we want is a comprehensive snapshot of what technology experiences our son is having, especially if he has to log in to use them. All right, so with that being said, basically the students and the parents have to go through and figure all this stuff out. So here is a California student. I'm privacy conscious, and I only know what I know due to reading through agreements manually and inspecting the install certificates on our iPads. That would be called a rarity. All right, the companies providing the online services list and privacy policies on their websites, but these policies are not shared directly with us or our parents. So now the students have to go in and figure out what we are doing. All right, let's have a look at our comments. Let's see. My country voted to leave EU, so we will not get safeguards. Are you in? Yeah, you are in UK, right? They want to do this thing called Snoopers Charter, where the companies have to be able to decrypt any data they handle. Yeah, that's scary. EU is blocking it. So he's going to IT school. He will be taking Linux and Unix classes. Yeah. When I was in high school, the police would get a free copy of my class yearbook. In my son's school, the police is on the school board. Oh boy. Third party equals random middleman. Yes, it does. That is that third party doctrine. That is what allows a company to collect all of the data it wants about you and then sell it to anybody because that's in their terms and conditions. Well, wouldn't you know it? One of those people happens to be the government. Who'd have thunk it? Oh, well. But, you know, that third party doctrine thing. There's a reason terms and service exist, but people continue to click, I agree, without reading it. And this is becoming a problem. Absolutely. This is in fact becoming so big of a problem that now the school systems are not even disclosing the terms and conditions because they don't even think on an academic level they're even impossible. And that's very hilarious that the academic institutions don't think on an academic level that the terms and conditions actually means anything, despite somebody up there might have a law degree, I'd hope. But who thinks of this stuff? Which stuff? The thing that goes through my head? I don't know, man. I just got out of the full crazy corporate work system a while ago and figured out how to make living myself freelancing. I didn't have to please anybody I don't want to please. Thank you very much for the nice effects on the screen. Yeah, the Tom on Fire took me a while to figure that out. I had to get some green screeny stuff. They should make Richard Stallman movie. I don't think he would participate. Stallman, yes, he is the guy with the beard. Did just not entirely focus on Stallman, some lyrics involved. Most people, or should I say nobody, reads the EULA. No, not nobody. I actually read them, believe it or not. And actually, if you watch my channel enough, you know I read them. I'll actually read parts of them to you. Sounds like Facebook, the middleman. Yeah, Facebook wants to be like the corporate middleman of the world. That's why they're trying to launch their floating blimps to provide free internet Wi-Fi across the third world countries. It's all about data collection. May I quote the social network? Bosnia. They have Facebook, but they don't have roads. All right. You can be assured Stallman is not in the code. It may or may not have anything about him, but who knows? All right. So we talked about the lack of transparency, and then we talked about the investigative burden. So the next thing we need to look at is the parental concerns. Obviously, there's a few parents a little concerned. Now, the sad thing is not everybody's like super concerned, but you know, some are just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, you know, if your child brings you a school form home, I mean, do you actually stop and read it, or you just, oh yeah, the school needs this, sign it. You know, that's what we should do though. Is we could hey, we'll see you later, Piggy Uniform. Good night, and you can catch the rest of the stream later. It will be on the same link. So thanks for joining us for a little while, and glad to see that some young folks are on Linux and doing well. So keep your head on straight, buddy. All right. Parental concerns about data collection and use. Obviously, parents who responded to the survey were particularly concerned about personally identifiable information that could be used to identify specific students, such as first name, last name, birth date, student ID, graduation date, and etc., all shared with Google without any parental consent, because the school to think it. The school didn't even read the terms and conditions. If they did, they would have seen, 2.5 and 10.1. Oh boy. Tom, does your school use Chromebooks or iPads? The school district out here, my friend who, if you can comment, you are in high school out here, you let us know if you are able to comment. But from what I know, they give Google addresses at a very young age. They issue Chromepads or Chromebooks. So they're using the G Suite of things. So that's it. Quick question, what distro am I using? I am using Linux Mint, and here is a picture of my actual desktop. So I have it nice themed out with this guy here, but this is Linux Mint Cinnamon is what I'm using. All right. So let's see. I'm going to get back to where I was. Downside of moving that thing around. There we go. Okay. So the parents, of course, are concerned. Here's one Utah parent said schools should not require students to use tools that involuntarily or without express parental permission collect data on students. This includes internal processing of data in order to, quote, improve products. Improve. We're just trying to improve our products here. Understanding user behavior to promote advertising, sharing data with third parties. Now, I wrote key next to a few of these, so I'm thinking they're kind of important. All right, key. They are collecting and storing data to be used against my child in the future, creating a profile before he can intellectually understand the consequence of his searches and digital behavior. That is so key. That is so key. Because if you get somebody used to using technology that early and they have no clue what is safe policy and what is not safe policy, and the teachers don't even know that, let alone the students. Now what happens is they just get full used to opening up everything to everybody on the whole world. It gets to that point where if a form pops up on your computer, you just fill it out. Oh, crap, that was a scammer's form. What? Huh? But scammer form doesn't register. And that's the biggest danger of not teaching anything about internet security or concerns or any of that kind of stuff. Because what happens is we get into a case where a student will simply just, whatever's up there, it gets used. And that's a problem. I wrote key next to another one here. The school system does not even acknowledge that our child's data is being collected and possibly sold. And that's the next big key. Huge key. Huge key. Okay? Huge key. If the school system is ignorant to the fact of how much data is being collected, we're all done. Hey, that's my buddy there. All right. Got first Chromebook in 7th grade, automatically given a student number and email address in 6th grade. Okay, so it starts in 6th grade. Okay, great. And I see you're on your school account, too. All right. So, with that being said, this is scary. In fact, I'm going to tell this story. I thought about whether I want to tell this story or not. Because I know a person who is a teaching assistant in one of the neighboring school districts, who always likes to say to me, I have nothing to hide. That is a person who has no idea that there's even a problem with any of this stuff. None at all. And with that, they're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at all. And so, with all that being said, if I came out and mentioned this person's name and this person found out about it, I bet they'd be mad. But you've got nothing to hide. You see how that works? That's a scary point. And the fact of the matter is, if the teachers, if the students, or if the teachers, the schools, and maybe even the students, the administrators don't even realize the data that is being collected and why is the data being collected, we're in trouble, people. We're in trouble. I have a theory that the only reason Apple's, did I see the movie The Circle with Tom Hanks? I did not. I saw The Ring, if that counts. Okay. My train of thought is derailed. Oh, and I wrote down here another one. I wrote, yay, security. The passwords were defaulted to the student IDs. Students are not allowed to change these passwords, and they've received emails stating that students are to stop attempting to change passwords. The student ID numbers were printed unredacted on schedules and handed out to students, and permitting my child follow a pattern that is easily guessed. That's like... That's like me saying, I got like $700 million sitting in my front living room here, but my locks are broken. But it's okay because, I have nothing to hide. Strong passwords much? Oh, boy. So, obviously, there is some point of concern. All right. So, now we are going to look at the next major issue they identified, and this was ed technology services lack standard privacy precautions. Okay, so in the survey, there were 152 distinct applications, software, and services used by schools. So 162. And actually, this paper actually lists all of them. I only printed out the document itself is 49 pages. I only printed out 43 because the last 10 or so pages is just lists of all these apps and things. So 152 of these. And so what EFF did is they investigated all of these services, okay? And what they found is that we investigated everyone's services, privacy policies, particularly practices in data retention, encryption, and de-identification and aggregation. And they exhibited concerning trends. Okay. 118 of these actually publish their policies. So that's 40-something, 39-ish, 40-ish, somewhere around there. Was that 38, if I can math much? Somewhere around there. No, that's not even right. Anyway, 152 minus 118 of them did not even mention any privacy policies at all. Take note, you don't have any choice of the matter. You're using it. All right. And so, of the 118 policies, only 78 of them mention data retention. This is how long is data stored. Okay, for privacy policies, address deletions of data after periods of inactivity would allow the applications to retain information on students after they graduate. Meaning some of these companies can store data for a long, long time. All right, so here's a wide range of practices. First, Evernote. In fact, Evernote was even in the news recently they wanted to do something even crazier with their privacy policies to make it crazier. But they've actually backed off due to mass outcry. Evernote maintains copies of information on the server's backup server for up to a year after the user has requested the data be deleted. Yeah, delete much? In fact, Facebook does the same thing. If you delete a post on it, are you sure you want to permanently delete this? All it does is adds a little toggle button in the back and it says, don't show. All right. Haiku learning, if you use haiku learning in schools. The schools, not the individuals, but the schools can retain the ability to delete information, but the student cannot. Lexia Learning requires that students and parents contact the school administrators to facilitate requests to access, change, or delete personal information. Yeah, and then they retain information as long as you count as active or as needed for them. And Storyboard retains student data for up to 4 years of inactivity. That's a long time. Of encryption, only 46 state Defender uses encryption. So 46 out of 152 applications apparently use encryption technologies to store this data. And only 51% mention de-identification or aggregation of user data. And so there are some issues like, yeah, I'm not quite sure I really want to participate in all this, but you know, that's kind of the way it goes, you know. And Kitty's over here. Yeah, you want to come back up? All right. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mac.
All right. Let's see. Apparently cell phones have a backdoor feature that can be turned into listening devices. Yes. In fact, Robert, if you missed, I forget exactly what it was. It was one of my tinfoil hat times. I talked about the Marketplace, which is like a muckraker document or a muckraker news organization from Canada. They actually did a video looking at apps and what apps on phones and stuff can do. It is worth going on YouTube. Just do a search for CBC Marketplace and look at the cell phone ones. There's actually 2 of them up there right now. But those guys, they do actually some pretty good work. Of course, they were also behind the controversial Subway, is this real chicken or not? Which I didn't actually see those reports, but who knows? Technology conspiracy thriller. I'll have to go check it out. Headphones or speakers can be used as mics. No, headphones or speakers really can't be used as mics. They just don't have the hardware capabilities that is required. Stick one into your mic input and shout, and it will work. All right, I'm going to test you on that. I'll try you out on that one. I'm not completely sure I agree with that. I'm pretty sure they do not have the capability to reverse engineer themselves. But who knows? I could be wrong. It's happened once before. And that was number 2. And never mind. All right. So the next major problem that EFF found is the barriers to opt out. Like, this comes back to the very thing. What if a parent does not agree to the Google terms and conditions or any other application terms and conditions you have? What happens if I say, no, I do not want my minor child to participate in Google-induced data harvesting so that they can build up a better profile on my student? Well, what they found is 40% of parents who responded to the survey did not know whether they could opt out of technology, and 30% said they definitely could not. So 70% of surveyed parents who did not perceive options for alternatives for their children's education. Even in schools with opt-out policies on the books, families struggled to opt their children out. One parent from Arizona simply wrote, opt-out is possible in theory, but not in practice. And that's key, because if you cannot opt out, what do you mean? Okay, so that kind of brings me to Robert. What's your question? Are there any expenses with all this data collection? What do you mean by expenses? Like, what's the cost? Or is the school paying money? Can you clarify that question? I'd love to provide something on there. A student wrote, I personally spoke with teachers at my school about technological judgments and hesitations I had. They were fully willing to allow me and to use alternate means of technology. However, no alternatives were ever set up. And a teacher wrote, no parents have inquired about opt-out yet, but we do not have a plan in place for when that does happen. And so opt-out is certainly an issue, and so we need to look at that as something to keep in mind. All right. So the problem here is, and this brings us back to the very same question. We have the opt-out option, but is it a true opt-out option? Can we really get in here and really truly opt out of things? In many cases, the answer is probably no. Okay. A few people on the response said students end up with a lower quality or even discriminatory classroom experience. For example, one parent described refusing to let their child complete homework online, and their child received lower grades as a result. Worse, some parents found that their students' participation in classroom technology continued even after they thought they had effectively opted out. Hey, Diego, how are ya? Use Rosetta Stone using a speaker as a microphone. Really? Huh. I guess I must be totally wrong on that. I imagine, though, it would certainly have to be plugged into a mic jack, not a speaker jack. But okay, all right. Lost my tinfoil hat. Yeah, you got to go get a tinfoil hat. I mean, you need a tinfoil hat. So, opting out, if I, in a modern day, like, am I anti-technology? Obviously, I'm not. Especially if you see my office, like I'm a minimalist everywhere, but you go to my office, like, this guy's a geek, you know? And that's kind of one of those core things that technology is good when it is used appropriately. And that is something like, that's something that we need to keep in mind. That we have to be able to opt out. We have to be able to sit back and go, what's going on? You know? All right, so does Google provide some kind of kickback? Do they make money from the data collection? Okay, so the thing is with that is there's no financial kickback to the school. Google, though, in many instances, offers these out. Like, for example, if you're a nonprofit organization, there is Google for Nonprofits, which will give an organization, I think, like up to 50 user accounts or somewhere on there, and each one will have, 10 gigabytes of personal data. It's completely free for the organization to use. And so that's a good deal. And I imagine it's much the same for school. Now, for Google, they make money because they're using this to push off and sell this data. And we're going to talk more about that. That's the tinfoil hat part that we will get into after we are done with these shortcomings, which I want to get through the rest of these shortcomings pretty quick. So hold on tight because we're going to go really fast through this. All right, so the next part we are going to do is we're going to look at the concept of privacy by policy. So there's two major things: privacy by policy and privacy by practice. Privacy by policy is to say that there's legislation in place to handle all of this data collection and all this privacy. And with all of this stuff in place, then we need to just make better legislation to protect our people. And that's just horribly wrong because of what is called turnkey politics. If all of the data is collected on you, all it takes is a quick change in policy and all that data is available now. FCC, Internet, ISP, privacy come to mind with anybody? That's exactly what we're talking about. And so with that type of stuff, it's better. Okay, so I'm going to go right back once again using the thing. Karate Kid Part 2, Mr. Miyagi. No, best block, no be there. Best block, no be there. Best way to protect your privacy is for your privacy data not to be collected to begin with. And there are ways to do this in the technology in the classroom. We do not need to attach everything to the cloud. We just need to make sure that whatever we're doing it sensibly. All right, so privacy by policy. So basically, this is where we have some problems, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those on some of the other issues. The next one, and give me just a second here. I'm doing my text banners actually on the fly, and it's actually working pretty good. I have a blank banner up here, and I can drop in the text I need. So I have a little thing with tech up here. So inadequate technologies and privacy training for teachers, and this goes back to that teacher's assistant that I know, because they're just not training people. Your average person is incompetent when it comes to how much data is actually being collected. Crazy amounts of data is being connected. It's insane how much data is being connected. Okay, and so we need to make sure that the teachers are being trained. But in many cases, the teacher is that first line of defense, helping a student to create a better password, helping a student to be more responsible when it comes to technology. And the teachers themselves many times have no idea how this stuff even works. They're just so caught up in many ways. Many people are just so caught up in, ooh, this is cool. Ooh, look what we can do. Ooh, look at the cool technology. Ooh, look at everything that we can now do. Yay! This is ugly. So that's kind of that. I'm glad you found your hat. Is yours as cool as my tinfoil fedora here? I hope so. I hope so indeed. Laptop died today, the same day my coursework was due. No! I actually had the first USB drive I ever got. This thing was huge. It was 128 megabytes. Not gigabytes, megabytes. 128 megabytes was my very first USB drive. I got it because I was doing all my dissertation stuff. I think it was for it was either my candidacy exams or my comp exams. I forget which in grad school. And I was using everything on a zip disk. And my zip disk crashed a week before. Fortunately, I was able to restore some things. And why I prefer to use the Tor network and stay anonymous as much as I can. Yeah, it's starting to look that way. I want to see if I can connect an entire Windows 10 computer exclusively through the Tor network. That'd be interesting. Illuminati confirmed. Not as cool, but functional. All right, good. As long as it's functional, that's good. I got the upgraded model. Right. Okay. So let's see. The next major problem is educating the students. Our students are so ill prepared when it comes to safety, as far as basic internet safety. How to avoid scammers. But also on online privacy. And those are two different issues. It's a different issue to say we have a different issue from safety versus an issue from security are indeed two different issues. Just putting a camera over here because the kitty actually resumed her spot at her normal place. I just want to see if I got. Let me see where the kitty is. Okay, one more second. All right. Oh yeah. This message is kitty approved. Kitty approved messages. Your school, are you being trained in internet policy? I can tell you that the answer to that question is no, unless my friend says otherwise. I think the answer is no because we have talked about it. My school provides Microsoft Office and 1 terabyte of OneDrive for free. Don't use it. Yes. In fact, that is one of the core things I'm going to be talking about at the end of this. If you can't stay to the very end, at least pick it up tomorrow. I will talk about the major downsides with that. OneDrive is cancer. Absolutely. Confirmed. Yeah, thank you, Dan. I will get to that. It is on my list. All right. And so, let's see. So the next thing we're going to look at is kind of there's some legal advice. This kind of talked about the COPA and things. Now, there is an industry self-regulation, which self-regulation, it doesn't always work. So self-regulation, if you're unaware, the first time I know of self-regulation happened was actually the movie industry in the 1800s. It was, we need to self-regulate ourselves or we are going to have censorship imposed upon us from the federal government. And so it's become the practice of a lot of companies all look back to that. In fact, television, movies, video games, everything with ratings on it is all a voluntary censorship to avoid federal or state censorship on some level. It's all been linked back, and it's all been linked back to a boxing match in Thomas Edison in Carson City. If you want to know about that, my second book is in the final editorial stages, and then hopefully within a few months I'll have it published, and I will talk about the whole thing. But the problem with self-regulation is that they can build a whole lot of loopholes into self-regulation, and they have done so. And this is the thing I was going to talk about in detail regarding Google specifically. Where's my part on Google? I'm just trying to get through some of the stuff. Okay, there's COPA, state laws. I must have missed it. The problem is there's so much good stuff here. I thought it was up here. Okay, so A provider for a product that is marketed for and deployed in classrooms but was not necessarily designed for educational purposes is outside the pledge of monitoring student data. Okay, and so basically what they've done is they put together a pledge, and the pledge is called, it's put together by the Future of Privacy Forum and the Software Information Industry Association, and it's called the Student Privacy Pledge. It is intended to safeguard students and privacy regarding the collection, maintenance, and use of student personal information. Okay, and the challenge is that the pledge seems to permit signatories to collect sensitive and potentially identifying data, such as search history. So the difference is what they define as personally identifiable information, which is that information that you use to determine who's who, is different than that defined by FERPA. FERPA is the law. This is a pledge. They use the same words, but they use a different definition. This is, by the way, a cult tactic. If you are involved in any religious studies, you will find that cults will actually do the same thing. They'll use the same words, but provide a different definition. So if you go into a church setting and they're using baptism in a different word than everyone else is using baptism, red flags should be going off. Same concept. All right, and so FERPA is both broad and direct, and this is not. So the pledge's definition of school service provider is limited to providers of applications, online services, and websites designed and marketed for. So, in other words, with Google basically, their pledge basically means they're not going to put targeted ads on G Suites for Education direct products. But if you use the same school address to log into YouTube, they can collect any amount of data that they want, and they can serve you targeted ads, which is everything they're trying to do. So by having a pledge and not a law, they can get around it with a loophole. And there is another place where this same exact tactic is used. Since I can't wait for the comments to roll around, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. You can look it up, do an internet search, pharmaceutical companies, and the concept is called off-labeling. Look up on your time off-labeling, and you will see what pharmaceutical companies do to sell drugs that violate what the drug was supposed to be designed for, and how they do it. In fact, there's even a documentary out there, I believe it's called Off-Label, which highlights the practice, which is technically illegal, but, kickbacks are kickbacks, and meals buy a lot of things. In fact, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you guys ever watched the television series Leverage, but in the one episode of Leverage, they all have to try and win a politician. So there's 4 of them that are going against 4 politicians, and like the chief leader guy, he comes in, he's like, like the 3 guys that aren't the mastermind guy, they're all having these big struggles. Like, oh, you don't know how hard this is. He's like, what? I got mine. Like, what'd you do? Bought him lunch. You mean you bought a politician with lunch? It was a nice lunch. Oh boy. So the pledge's definition also does not include providers of devices like laptops and tablets who are free to collect and use student data. So Google can get around the pledge by issuing you a Chromebook. Okay. So that's kind of what Google was doing is Google is still collecting all of the data. They just pledge not to put the ads on just that Google for Applications stuff. All right, then we have COPA. Now, if you are in Colorado, Connecticut, or California, there are special laws, which I'm not going to get into those because we are already over an hour. So if you are in one of those states, pick up this report and read about the state laws. Briefly, if you want to just do a quick Google search. I said it! Bad! Internet search. Do an internet search. And the California, it's called SOPIPA. And if you believe that these companies are not collecting information, you are smoking a pipa. But it's the California Student Online Personal Identification Protection Act. In Colorado, it is called, I'm looks like getting an STD, which sounds pretty appropriate with this stuff. But it's the Student Data Transparency and Security Act. And in Connecticut, it is called an Act Concerning Student Privacy. So AACSP, I guess. So you get all that kind of stuff going. So let me get caught up on the comments, and then we're going to go ahead and get into the solutions and the recommendations. I got to find my rotating banner to whip stuff around, though. Okay, let's see. Kitty! Yep. Kitty, kitty, kitty. In fact, I'm reading comments. Let's go back to the kitty cam because he's cute. All right. Use Veracrypt to send files to OneDrive. Yeah, that's one way if you do have to use the thing. Of course, if you are using the thing to OneDrive, it's probably connected to your teacher's account. So using Veracrypt kind of defeats the purpose. Google has loopholes. Say it ain't so. Yeah. They got so many loopholes. It's like a bowl of spaghetti. Yep. Web search. All right. So let's go ahead, and they say there was a cure for cancer. Actually, if you look, you won't find anything in the pharmaceuticals, but if you look up, there's a lot of intriguing things that's like, that's interesting. Like, for example, vitamin B17 is a compound. That's not uracil, is it? I forget the compound now. But it's vitamin B17. You never hear about B17. Well, the greatest place to find B17 is in things like apricot seeds, which you're always told, that's cancerous. Well, it turns out that it's a cyanide-bound compound that is only cleaved by cancer cells, which is interesting. And so, before I go on chemo, I'd probably try and stockpile on those particular seeds and be cracking some of those open. I'm definitely not saying that's a cure for cancer, but it is certainly something worth looking at. And the other thing to look at is there was actually a doctor who came up with essentially just a vegan-based organic diet that had tremendous luck in treating and curing cancer. In fact, his foundation is still run by his 100-year-old daughter. And looks younger than me in many ways. Who was that? They have to run their foundation out of Tijuana, Mexico, because it's illegal in the United States. It's a vegan diet. It's illegal in the United States. I forget the name of their institute, but it's an interesting thing. All right. CRISPR-Cas9 replacement gene therapy is going to cure cancer. I wouldn't place your bets on it, Dan. I actually did a lot of subcloning in grad school. That was my specific target of focus, was looking at LXXL motifs with forkhead, boxhead proteins and PPR. And we were looking at a lot of that kind of stuff. And a lot of it's just fodder for graduate degrees. So yeah, CRISPR-Cas9 is not bad. The only thing I like about CRISPR-Cas9 is if you've ever watched Acapella Science, he's got some absolutely fabulous videos out there. He does one on CRISPR-Cas9. He does entire Acapella Science videos based upon songs, parody songs, and so that one's based on Sandman. CRISPR-Cas9, bring me a gene. Definitely worth checking out. It rocks. Better than the nasty chemical stuff, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and have a look at some solutions. Again, I am not going to read the recommendations for school procedures, administrators, teachers, librarians, system administrators, etc., because there's just too much stuff here. All right. So according to the report for parents, and I thought theirs were a little short-sighted for me. With parents, they say ask the right questions, be on the lookout for a lot of things. And I thought some of this was a little short-sighted, although it's a good start. I don't think it goes as far as we want. So were you presented with the opportunity to review privacy policies of these vendors? The answer to that's probably no. What are the technology providers in the school districts collecting respectively? Yeah, they don't even know. Yeah, well, yeah, get the word out and we'll get more subs. That's cool. I'm not like, shove me, but yeah, I mean, I try. So is a hardware product like a laptop or their controls available. Okay, push for opt-out alternatives. I love their strategy on finding allies and what to do. So find a couple like-minded teachers, slowly build your group bigger, and then literally as a group, storm the PTA, storm the school board, storm the school administrators, and say, we want opt-out alternatives. Please, please, please give us opt-out alternatives. And that's kind of one of those things that they do. Of course, they gave the students essentially the same thing. In fact, I wrote down one of these, like, this does not help. Like, determine if there are privacy settings you can control directly on the device or application. As if you have a choice. I'm going to read you what I came up with. I kind of jotted down a lot of interesting solutions. So with that, let me find, where'd my screen with comments go? There we are. There's my screen with comments. All right. And I put these up here because my buddy says, hey, it'd be cool to see the comments on the screen. So I put those up there so you guys can follow along with where I'm looking at in the comments. Good program works like Veracrypt cross-platform. All right. I was looking for, who's there? Is it Ashtusu Linux? Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? I am getting into what we do now. So first, let me go ahead and address that question there since it's on my list, but we'll do it here. So here is the problem with them giving you the Microsoft account and the 1 terabyte of space. So I'm assuming that's not just a terabyte. I'm also assuming that it is a Microsoft account with all of their Office 365 for school stuff, because Microsoft's trying to do everything that every other successful company's been doing. Because why do something original and creative? Let's just all regurgitate everything else and just create a whole bunch of mastermind dominating crazy people. Why not? Okay, so the biggest challenge is what these companies are doing, and this is kind of my core overarching solution, but we're going to get into more. The overarching problem is that they're giving you the accounts, the Google accounts, the Microsoft accounts, whichever account can finagle their way into school. They're giving you these as a means to track your data. They are tracking what you're doing, what you're seeing. They're tracking the files that you use. And this is the biggest problem with staying on Windows 10. And this is the reason I left Windows environment, is because of the data tracking. And if you go and check out, I want to say it was one of my last couple live streams. In fact, it might have been on my last live Tinfoil Hat Time. I cannot remember where I did it. No, it was my last Tinfoil Hat Time. I went through, Microsoft finally released the basic release levels of data they're collecting, and it is so scary. It's like, yeah, I never really want to touch Windows 10 again. But what they're doing, and kind of like Facebook got caught doing emotional experiments on people quite illegally, they're collecting all of this data on people. And my estimation is they're using it to basically collect the data points and see how people change over time. But they're also building up individual dossiers of content so that you can basically garner people up to figure out exactly what somebody wants. The closer you can get somebody to exactly what their desires are, the better it is to trap them with. And this is why I believe, you get movies like Devil's Advocate where the devil is a lawyer. The devil is a marketer. The devil is a marketer. Whatever he can do to get you to do whatever your sin is. And in terms of marketing, in terms of this stuff, whatever the company can do to separate you from the money, they are going to do it. You're into vegetarian stuff, they're going to push vegetarian stuff on you. You're into whatever. Okay? But the thing is that they are storing all this data on you. And so what my advice is to people, and my advice to kids in our school district, the day you graduate, you go through that account, you make sure you have all the documents you want to save. Save them down, hard copy in your computer so you have them. You might want them. I still have documents. I'm not sure if I have some from high school yet, but I know I have all my documents from college. Save the documents because you're going to want a copy, and then nuke that Google account, and you never touch that thing again. You go on there, you tell some other person, throw a bunch of gobbledygook on the keyboard. There's my new password. Change all my settings so I can't even recover the password. Nuke that thing. Never touch it again. Because they are building a data profile on you. Even that is not even safe or secure. So that's what you do. The problem with it is they're collecting all of the data. And with Microsoft, they're like data prostitutes. Just whatever, just give me your data. Give me your data. And at least with Google, I can give one positive for Google, so that with Google, at the very least with Google, they do not seem as open-handed with their data. But Microsoft is still trying to prove to the world how much data they have. And there was a TED Talk, and I do not remember the name of it. I can only remember the subject. But it was a medical doctor who's trying to figure out a program and an application to figure out what your cross-reference drugs are. And so you could put in a series of drugs, and it would look at a bunch of symptoms. And so with all that, what he was trying to do is produce this database. And he approaches Google and says, we want to do a study to see if somebody is on one drug, are they looking up a drug interaction with another drug? And Google said to the doctor, no, we think that that's too private of data. We're not giving that out. Well, the guy was complaining about that to a table at some conference. And wouldn't you know, there's some Microsoft guy sitting there. The guy's like, oh yeah, we'll get you all that data. And nothing. He just grabs all this data from Microsoft. Now, the problem is that Microsoft is now pushing Bing so hard, so deeply integrated into Windows 10, that invariably, if you're using Windows 10, the way people have been trained by the school system through ignorance to use computers and devices, you're using Bing more than you imagine. If you got the Eye of Sauron on your computer, that's Cortana, by the way, good luck. Things like your nagging little sister.
Mommy, he did, mommy, he did that. Mommy, he did this. Mommy, he did that.
Bleh. I am Sauron. I will kill you. I just finished watching that series. So that's kind of my ultimate thing. All right, let's see. We got a lot of comments came through on that. All right. Yes, on full account. Hey, I called it. Leaving Windows 10 today. Yeah, bin Windows 10 for sure. Install Linux Mint and all. Drives work automatically. Do you use cloud service or do you use a home NAS? I use a home NAS system. And if I happen to need to access it outside, I also have my own VPN to get into my NAS from the outside world. But it is only hooked up if I leave the house. Additionally, I have security cameras in my office, which you can see one of them up there in the corner. My security cameras in my office are also only accessible on my internal drive. They're not available on the outside world. They have the capability of doing that, but I've blocked any access from the outside world to them. So to view them, I have to be on my VPN. And so that's the thing. Now, on target for me is to build an internal collab and an internal own cloud. I just have not had the time to do that. Make sure to add line tear free on your graphics driver config to fix screen tearing. Okay. Hello there, Fidel. How are you? Change your BIOS settings UEFI mode before you install if you want faster. Yeah, I hate UEFI, particularly my big rig computer. I have like no control over the UEFI from the BIOS. It is insanely stupid. I actually have to boot into random Linux distros to manually edit the UEFI settings and configurations through a terminal because this computer's like the BIOS is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. If I update any Linux distro that happens to update UEFI bootloader, it wipes the entire thing out and I have to rebuild it all again. It's like, stupid computer. You're funny. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually really good with sounds, accents, whatever else. I should be in Hollywood doing sound effects because usually if I don't have the time of the rest of the scammer and one calls, I go ahead and pick up the phone with an Indian accent because I have this alternative persona of a butcher father, and I actually will sometimes answer the phone for friends going, hello, Tisha. And Boo even has a cow named Bessie, and Bessie gives out some very nice raw milk that I have. It's a very good place. So I can do fun stuff like that. Speaking of which, I caught a scammer today. I think I had him on the phone for a good 10-15 minutes, and when I get the chance, I'm going to make a fun video out of it. Great news, people. Great news. My student loans are going to be taken care of by the Obama administration. But it was fun. I got it on camera. I was not running anything capable of doing video recording, but I do keep an audio recorder on my desktop at all times. So that was fun. I'll do barnyard animals. That's Bessie. Do you use Gmail as your primary email? No. I have one Gmail account that is required from one stupid project I work on, and I don't let it gain access to anything. No, I'm not checking my email on my phone. I check my email on iStuff on Cubes. That's where my email gets checked for that group. So that's kind of a problematic thing right now with your email. The very best option for email, if you can, is to buy a domain name, buy a hosting service, and use email through that. Almost all my emails are through that. I am still myself looking for a good free email system, but pretty much everything out there requires text message verification or something that, it's kind of crazy. I'm going to write that one down. Tuana for email. I have not heard of that one yet. I've heard about pretty much every other one out there. I'm going to look at that. All right, so other tips, other solutions, because we don't want to talk about just griping about the problems. We want to talk about more solutions. So let's get into more solutions. Nuke those accounts for sure. Use as little as possible. Next thing, stay logged out. Like a friend of mine, their school system hooked up his personal computer into their school-based Google network, and everything on that computer was running through the school system. Bad. Don't do that. Slap those people silly. So stay logged out. In fact, if you are following my cubes tutorial, I'm talking about how you can develop different cubes for different accounts. So on cubes, you could actually install one specific cube and let Google have access to that one, but use that cube only for a Google logged in thing if you happen to be a student logged into that. Or that would also be a good option if you happen to be forced on that Microsoft account. Using cubes allows you to do that. And then you can follow my tip on my fourth tutorial video to block every one of those things on everything else that you use. So you can have one system that nothing's going to track you, nothing's going to block you, nothing's going to grab your data. You're using that everywhere else, and you just hop right on over there on cubes to do just the minimum amount of stuff. So just do that little bit. Hey, here's a fun one if you're a parent concerned about this stuff. Homeschool. I'm all for it. I don't want half those people teaching my children nothing. Some of the school districts are crazier than others. In fact, I have the funniest story about that when I was out west. Of course, if you've ever been in a Hastings bookstore, interesting place. But of course, they were slightly concerned about offending people in a way, and so. But the school system wasn't. So there's one barista there, and she had multicolored hair and tattoos that she actually at work she had to wear armbands, like running armbands to cover the tattoos on her wrist, and she had to wear band-aids over her ears to cover the piercing, because she didn't have just traditional piercings, she had kind of crazy ones. And so she basically had to bandage her ear up and wear these things there. They didn't mind the hair so much, but that's what you were required to work at Hastings, at a coffee shop, where they sold Playboy and stripper poles. But the school system didn't mind any of that stuff. In fact, one of the teachers in the school system had tattooed this dark color. It looks like a prostitute had went too crazy with the mascara and the eyeshadow. Tattooed permanently on her eyelids. Ah! Homeschool. Good plan in the modern world. Obviously, ask about non-tech options or low-tech or alternate. In fact, one of the things I didn't get into in the report, they were talking about one problem is that there's an all or nothing approach, and there's times you need to jump back and forth and say, okay, we're going to say I don't need all the tech everywhere, but whatever. That's fine. Okay, now here's the major one. We ourselves need to be cognizant of the problem. And we as parents need to teach our kids to be cognizant of the problem. That cognizance of the problem will take you a long way. If you're at least on some degree aware of what's going on, that's what you need to do. All right. I already said thrash your Google accounts. All right, let's look at some comments here, and then let's see. Heard Fitbits are, crap bits, and they track you. I actually have an entire tinfoil hat episode dedicated to that very topic, in fact, Robert. In fact, it is in my list. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Let me do this. Okay. No, don't play anything. I'm going to try and find that video for you. I'll drop it in the comments if I can. And I'm trying to remembering the name of it right now. I know it's a tinfoil hat time. Let's see. Can we find it? It might be this one. Oh, no. I found it. Copy link address. This is the one, Dr. Rob. It is called Buying and Selling Your Personal Health Data. Yes, I addressed that in fine detail. If it was called, that I'd buy it. Yeah. Use Posterio as my primary. It's 12 euros a year, but I think it's worth the money for privacy and usage of open source software and deployment. There's such a thing as a free ISP. I do not know of any, other than, piggyback off your neighbors, Now, I was going to say something, but now we're not going to go there. Of course, Comcast is trying to have the biggest free ISP. Now, you still have to pay them a subscription. Of course, whatever. They're teaching me to sign up with my real personal information. Help. Yes. Tell them no. Fun factoid. It's actually slightly, I think, illegal to sign up an account with a false information. I don't know. But I would, if I really have to have an account with something, I give them the minimum I possibly can. Ultimately, only a bank or a government agency needs to know the exact everything. Everything else, if you muddle it up a little bit, you'll kind of confuse their databases. Bing! I call that gray space or gray matter, don't sign up with your real information. And for love, do not just fill out a form because it pops up on your screen or is in your email. Especially if somebody sends you an email like, hey, you need to get in here and re-verify your account. That's called a phishing attack. It might be a spear phishing attack. I need to get a spear. Okay. Let's see. Other solutions. Yes, I would like written assurances that all people in contact with my child are aware of privacy concerns and are properly trained. There's something we could really push on the school system. Yeah, I want to make sure that that everyone is aware of it, because if a teacher's unaware or doesn't care about or doesn't know about this stuff, they're definitely not going to teach that to your children. And so, let's see. I'm going to get to that one last. Use your own technology and keep it secure yourself. That's the best way to really, if you do have to use a level of technology, bring in your own. That way you can dictate a little bit more what is done with it. You might still have to log parts of it into your system, but you know what? If you bring a Cubes laptop into school, they may not know how to deal with it. And I've got those 5 nice Cubes tutorials to help you set that kind of stuff up. Compromise. Compromise to use non-cloud-based technologies or non-login tools. So I do not mind at all if the school's like, hey, go ahead and use this particular thing here. I don't mind if I'm using some website or whatever else, as long as I do not have to log in, then you have a better chance of them not tracking who you are. And so that's that. Of course, there's always things like clearing caches and cookies and things like that. Implement privacy by practice. So learn how to do this kind of stuff. And here's a fun one, or maybe not so fun one. It depends on how sadomasochist you are. But read the terms and conditions and privacy policies. If nothing else, it might very well scare you away from creating the account to begin with. That'd be fun. So those are my things. My last point. I'm going to do my last point here. Let me look at comments first. Teach us about some of the new tracking Bluetooth cubes or whatever they were, global positioning ones. I will have to look into that. I do not know about all that. I'll look into that. Let me see. What is that? Bluetooth tracking. Not heard of that one yet. All right. If it's illegal, then I'm on the top one in child. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything else. Where are my cute cats? How's that for a cute cat? All right, here's my last tip. We'll go ahead and show the cute kitty. Kitty, kitty. Hey, kitty, kitty. Want to look at the camera? Kitty, kitty. Look at the camera. Kitty, kitty. All right, he's dead to the world. I had a hard time getting them to lay in one spot when I was starting. All right. Oh, there he goes. Oh, look at that cuteness. Okay, last point. You need to make a decision if you're going to fight or if you're going to dig in. Okay? Fight or dig in. So here's what I mean. There are times you want to take a stand and you want to take a fight. And in those instances, what you need to figure out how to do is do it using those strategies. If you got the time on your hands and you're able to do it, go ahead and organize the rallies, organize the people, talk to the administrators, raise awareness, do things like this, share this video to help raise some awareness on it, whatever happens to work. Just do a bunch of things that make it work. Resist it. Ask about offline. If you are a student, if you are a young person or you are a student, you have got to approach your teachers with the absolute most respect. If you approach them with respect, they will treat you with respect. If you approach them like a jerk, they will treat you like a jerk. Now, the other option, though, is there is no problem with just digging in and going through it. So you may not want to ruffle any feathers because you got too many other things going on in your life. Like, you just don't care, okay? And so with that being said, you could just sit back, just dig in your heels, say, okay, I'm going to learn what it takes to secure myself, to just buckle down, say, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to use Google, log in with Google only when I am. I'm going to install that second browser on my computer. I'm only going to use Google on that second browser. I'm going to do the bare minimums, but I'm going to disconnect from it, log out. I'm going to use Start Page for my internet searches. I'm going to use other services that are not those. Get through it, get through your school, and then thrash that account. Nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing wrong with not ruffling feathers. We do not all have to take up our arms and go into battle. Sometimes there's great wisdom in sitting back and just going, yeah, I'm going to protect myself. So you have to make that decision for yourself. For me, there are battles I will easily give up, and there are battles I will pick up my arms. But I cannot pick up arms and fight every single battle that comes before me. I'm a busy guy, and frankly, there's a lot of things that I just gotta walk away. Like, I left a church that I was part of for years, not too long ago, and for me, it was sad because I had a lot of great friends there. I just couldn't stay. Now, there's one argument that says just stay wherever you are and be the best Christian you can be. And there's another argument that says sometimes you just got to go and get fed somewhere else. And either one can be an appropriate response. And what I made the decision to do is I do not have the time to battle this considering everything else going through my life. Because I was going through a period of time in my life where I lost about everything. And I didn't have I did not have the strength in the battle to stand there with someone else. It's not a battle I'm willing to fight. I'm just going to go find another place where I can get fed from the Word of God. That's what I had to do. And apply that same principle here to technology and privacy. Okay? Stand the same technology. There's times I'm just not going to resist. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to buckle down and just do what I need to do. Because going back to that one most important thing, the most important of all of these is be cognizant of the problem. If you are cognizant of the problem, if you know it's an issue and you study the stuff, what you can do is sit back and say, I am going to I can have the online account that may be tracking me if I'm aware of the problem. And that's why for me, I don't have a huge fuss with getting on YouTube and talking about this stuff or having a Facebook account attached to my authorship stuff for my book. And so with all of that kind of stuff, I know the concerns with privacy, and so I take very, very, very good reasonable steps to do that. That's where I'm at. So there is my problems, there is my solutions, there are the challenges, and that is information. Now, I do have another entirely different tech and education thing. I will probably save it for a few tinfoil hat times out because I'm still wanting to research a little bit more, and so with all that, we're going to come very close to wrapping up here. I'm just going to go through the comments another time. So if you have any final comments, let me know, and then we'll see if we can't get through any of these. All right, let me go ahead and switch back to the cute cat cam. All right. Send them, maybe they can send a rep from Google or Microsoft to train the schools. Not, yeah, please don't. We're going to train you everything you need to know. Yep, yeah. You just put all your information right here. You always use Google. Always stay logged in. This is perfect. This is perfect. Oh, no. It's Bing. Maybe if you get the Google representative and the Microsoft representative together, they'll kill each other. Like George Carlin said one time with the cancers, right? You want two cancers in your body. They eat each other up instead of you. Okay. Fight or flight. Yikes. Yeah. Well, actually, it's not fight or flight. It's fight or buckle down. Right? And I think that's a different distinction. Flight would just be like, flee, abandon all hope. Oh, look at that cuteness. Jeez. All right. I've just given up on my own online identity, and I've just made random fake people to use accounts as. I have a bunch of them. I'll endorse. People think I'm stupid for not using Facebook. Yeah. Who uses Facebook is stupid. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I have an account. I really never use it. Ever consider a Linux meetup? I'm in West Virginia, south of Pittsburgh, although lived in PA for over 12 years. Yeah, I'd love to probably do something like that. That'd be kind of neat to do. I think we actually have some in my town. I haven't bothered looking much. School, we have a technologist that manages all the PCs in the school network, but he changed all the monitors and tablets to 16:9, even though they were mostly 3:4 and 3:2. It's very annoying. Resist the devil. Marketer, steal your joy. Yeah. He changed the aspect ratio for privacy for tracking purposes. I don't understand that one. Interesting. Grumptious kitty. Yes. Upload a video about your cat. I have some interesting plans. Kitty! Hey, how's it going? Kitties are dreaming to take over. Yeah, he is. Well, we've come to the end of the comments. I think what we're going to do is on the kitty cam, I am going to give the kitty a kitty treat so you can see the cuteness. And be bombarded by a second cat as soon as I touch that thing. And then we are going to wrap this up. So thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to feed the kitty and then I'm going to turn off the camera. So I will catch you guys later. Oh, by the way, next news is going to be 9 o'clock on Friday instead of 11 o'clock on Friday. So if you're around 9 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, I will be doing a news roundup. I'm not sure exactly which ones I'm doing, but we'll see. I did see some fascinating news articles there recently. So we'll get there. So I'm going to feed up the kitties, and then I will catch you guys later. Feeling people change the icons. Okay. Oh, yeah. Right here. Stay right there. Okay. Oh. There you go. Kitty kitty. Huh. I'm not sure where the other kitty is. I'll go find her. All right. Night, everybody. Thanks for watching.